What up? What up? Welcome to the Keep It Going podcast. My guy Doc is a real dude sitting with real people having real conversations. Now make sure you subscribe so that you can get notifications every Tuesday. Now let's chop it up.
Right. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keep It Goines. And we have had a very spirited conversation before starting to shoot this on B-Real versus B-Roll. Exactly. And the whole studio told me this B-Roll and not B-Real, and they feel very proud of themselves.
Absolutely.
For that, especially that guy.
No doubt.
So guys, this is another episode, and today we'll talk about control freaks. These are people that they just got to be in control. And we want to understand, we have a therapist, our house therapist, LaToya here. And we got some individuals who, this is a project manager, corporate person, very strategic, very organized. And if you want to get on Tamara Shorter's nerves quick, not have your stuff together. Oh, my goodness, not have your stuff together. Don't follow up on an email. Oh, turn in something that's not complete. Oh, my goodness. And she would put her Christianity aside and use words that you should not say in church. And then we have Coach Corey. Coach Corey is a serial entrepreneur, successful guy. His background is freaking all over the place. He's a podcaster, influencer. He's a business coach. He's a lot of things. So with being like that, he's used to being in charge.
Absolutely.
He's used to being the guy in charge that oftentimes the last word is his. And people have to oftentimes acquiesce to his way because when you're in charge, you get your way. And that is a great thing in corporate America, but it may not translate well in relationships.
Not at all.
So we want to talk about it, guys. So, guys, when you hear control freak, for our LPC in the building, give us a clinical definition, or if there is one, of what is a control freak. What is that?
There is no clinical definition for that,
Mm-hmm.
but a control freak is just someone who always has to have their way because they think that their way is better.
Oh, wow.
And they always want to be in control, but it usually comes out of a place of anxiety. And that's what people don't realize. So when you're seeking that much control, it's because you don't want any surprises, which is good, like you said, in business or at work, but it doesn't always translate well in relationships.
Whoa.
And they're just doing it from a place of potentially trauma, but more often anxiety.
So anxiety, fear, are those the same, or use those words interchangeably?
I'm not using them interchangeably, but they can be. I'm not.
So when I have to be in control, that means that I have...
Worry.
Okay, I'm worried that if it's not done my way, it's not going to come out correct.
Correct.
Right? Now, what you also extrapolate to saying, and if it doesn't come out correct, it's a bad reflection on me.
Right.
So much of I got to be in control because I don't want to look bad. Mm-hmm. And so and then to have anxiety of looking like I wasn't prepared or I don't know what I'm doing. And so that's where, but if my hand is on it, with that being said, though, when your hand is on it, and it still doesn't turn out well, where does that leave the control freak? If you have no one to blame but you? Or do they find someone to blame at that point?
Well, I think a good leader will take responsibility for what they did and recognize where they dropped the ball at. But there may be people who will find someone to blame. Okay. But if you had your hands on it and it still didn't go the way you wanted it to go, then that means you need to check your processes and check your system.
Okay. So Tamara, let's talk about you, ma'am. You are a single woman in 2023, and you have done well in the corporate sector. Mm-hmm. You have a beautiful daughter, and you like to be in control. Tell me, have you seen that to impact your personal life? That your project manager Tamara versus just Tamara, the girl?
I don't think so from a relationship perspective.
Of course you wouldn't think so. Of course not.
I would say definitely with my daughter, yes. Because of the fact that I want to make sure she's doing well, things are in line, she's got a process. And so I do get frustrated and we do clash from that perspective. So
you're
yes.
pretty hands-on with your daughter, aren't you?
I am very hands-on with my daughter.
Do you feel you can be hands-on to a fault?
Yes.
Do you give her room to fail?
I'm learning to do that.
Wow. And has she told you, Mom, let me fail, like move if I'm a...
She hasn't told me let me fail.
Because she's afraid of you.
I think it's more of she asked for space, but I think more me learning that I have to give her that space because I see that my hovering bothers her, right?
Oh, wow.
I can see that it hinders her. So it's something I'm learning.
That's great self-reflection, parents. That's great. Corey, how about you, man? I mean, you've started. You've been the progenitor of several movements, and even with like the Black Lives Movement, man, you're an activist as well. So with you being a person who's pretty much organizing and planning, how does that translate to just regular Corey and like regular friendships and relationships?
Yeah, I've learned to compartmentalize. So I'm different at home than I am in corporate America. I'm different at home than I am with my children. To the therapist point, I think this control notion gets a negative rap.
Okay.
All of us have control issues. Just go home at night. The windows are down. The doors are locked. The doors are closed because you want to control your environment because what's in there you love. If the windows are open, you can't control what comes in and what goes out. And so when you talk about control, I think most times we have a tendency to try to control the outcome because we're emotionally tied to whatever it is that we're trying to control. Now, there are negative control freaks that are just overly controlling. But as we kind of extrapolate some truth from this topic, I want to just put it out there that everybody has a control component. We all control.
Yeah, I think being a control freak is different from being basic things that are just responsible, man. It's irresponsible to leave your windows up.
Absolutely.
I mean, and it costs you money because air, you know, in old school, let my air out the house.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, that's more responsibility. Control is like, I gotta be, my hands has to touch it, or you gotta do it my way. If you're not doing my way, I'm out of control. So I'm uncomfortable in that space.
Right. And so it goes back to the young lady that just spoke about her daughter. Most parents, the children see it as control, but the parents see it as love.
Gotcha. Right.
And I could really dig into R.C. Sproul and the holiness of God and how he talks about God's love can be suffocating, right? But I won't get too deep into that. But the reality is that sometimes I watched her and she said that my daughter is making me see that I need to back up, right? And so sometimes we have to learn to back up off of that control because what we're trying to control the outcome, but sometimes we're squeezing the life out of what we're trying to control. I've done that before. I've made that mistake in relationships. I've made that mistake with my children, where I just want to see you win, and this is the way to win, but it's not my life, right?
You know the rub. The rub is that when they really are doing it wrong, I mean that's what like. If you keep doing that, you're gonna mess this thing up.
But wrong to whose standards, though?
To my standard.
But that's the issue.
What's this? But I get to create my standard if it's my project.
But is respectfully,
yes, sir.
This is not just you, but for the whole panel.
Yeah.
Is your marriage your project?
Is my marriage my project?
Is your children your project? Think about it.
Well, relationally and professionally are two different things.
Completely different things.
Right. So which are you asking me?
I'm actually just talking about relationally because we could, yeah.
Well, so relationship, anytime you're dealing with people, you can't control what people do and how people feel. So I don't go down that pathway because I believe that people are going to do what they do regardless of what you do or say. Right. And so I create the best possible situation for you to function in a normal capacity.
Good.
If you step outside of that, I don't take that personal.
Right.
You made a decision, step outside of that. So now we deal with that decision you made. So I don't really trip on that. But I think a situation with my oldest son, he was dating a girl that we just did not approve of. Yeah. I mean, man, we couldn't, and we tried to do and to say certain things, get him to kind of open his minds up, but like the first girlfriend, all this good stuff and everything go along with that. And so finally, I remember one night just said, he don't see it. He just did not see it. It was plain, but he did not see it. And honestly, I knew it sounds super preachy, but I said, I'm going to stop fighting this. God, open his eyes when you're ready for his eyes to be open, because it was causing a wedge between, it was the roughest time of our father-son relationship. He was starting to resent me because I wasn't loving who he was loving. He started to resent me, question me, and I said, anyway, and it was bad until I just got off of it. I said, brother, I can't control your mind. Let it go how it go. And then when his eyes were open, I just listened to him. Dad, I cannot believe that. And so that's kind of where he was. So I can feel you there. And parents, the best thing to do with your children, especially when it comes to matters of the heart, and even some of their professional choices, is to give them room to bump their head, just like we did, because we got the message.
Yeah.
We learned the lesson because it hurt us to learn it. Right. And sometimes we try to keep our kids from having to learn the hard way, when the hard way is sometimes the best way.
Right.
Yeah.
So parenting, step out parenting, relationally, like someone that you're in love with, relationships. How does the control freak fare in relationships usually when they're trying to control relationships? How does that usually work with control freaks?
It's filled with tension because you're essentially trying to squeeze someone into your mold that they're not in.
That's good.
And so then that person then starts to resent you because I was doing XYZ when we met, or I was dressing this way when we met, or whatever it is. And you're trying to change them and make them conform to your idea or your image of what you think they should be like in relationship with you. And it doesn't fare well.
So talk from the perspective of the person that comes in your office and they're with a control freak. Describe to us how that person feels and where does it leave the person when they feel they're with a control freak. How are they feeling? So control freaks can know, here's what you're creating,
Right.
whether or not you justified or not. Here's where you're leaving them.
So they typically feel anxious and sad.
Wow.
They're anxious because it's like, this is how I talk, this is how I dress, this is how I present, and now when I'm with them, I have to do something different. I'm buying a new outfit every time we go on a date because he or she is not gonna like what I'm wearing. I'm thinking about what I'm gonna say 45 times before I say it because I don't want to say something to upset them. So they're worried about how they're perceived and then how that person's gonna respond to them. And then they're sad because their feelings are involved and they like this person and they don't know how they got here, and now they're thinking, oh, I'm gonna have to break up with this person.
Is this usually something new? Is this something new that they develop after?
So here's
I'm like,
the thing.
why would you be with somebody like that?
Why would you be with that person,
Yeah.
right? But the thing is, when we first get in relationships, no one presents their full self. And I just don't care who you are. People show up as their representative. And so it's a gradual process. You don't go on the first date with somebody and say, I hate the way you dress. Please don't ever wear those shoes with me again. That's
I don't know.
not
It depends
happening.
on who you're dating.
That's not
Like
happening.
that guy, and I wouldn't say I hate it. And I'm like, who we kind
On
of
the first date, that's not happening.
listen, if your shoes don't really go with your outfit, even if I don't tell you, in my brain, we're probably not gonna be going out again because you
Cool.
can't dress.
But you didn't say it to them.
Or if they ask me, you like my outfit? Actually, I don't like the shoes with that though. I'm being very confident with that.
But you're not saying it in a controlling way. You're not
No.
saying, "Ooh, don't wear that. Ooh, don't do that. Ooh, I like it if you do it like this better." On the first date.
On the first date.
Not
Yeah,
on the
on the
first date. Let's agree to that.
Okay, not on the
But
first
then
Second or
multiple
third.
dates going in. Right. Third date.
For sure, third date. 'Cause listen, now you got all stars on again.
Yeah, you're embarrassing me.
Baby, you
if
left your
look like
toothpaste
that.
at home.
Yeah, like
You mentioned-
third date for sure.
Ooh, the breath.
Yeah, you left your toothpaste at home.
Oh.
Go back and get
Whoa,
it.
I would definitely tell them about the breath.
Absolutely. Okay.
First date.
That's a little too much. All right, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you're
no,
right.
it's fine.
Yeah.
So people get in these relationships because they fall in love, they fall in they really fall in lust because it's not been a lot of time, but it's gradual.
Okay.
The person doesn't show up like, I'm demanding, this is what I want, this, like that's not happening.
And I'll just And so, Corey, you got anything like have you been in that relationship that where you were a control freak in a relationship?
Yeah, that's why I was intently listening to it because I've had that conversation. And I said this on the last podcast. I think sometimes we can be unconsciously controlling, right? I don't think it was something that I ever desired to control because you know me personally. I'm not a controlling person, but what she said in the
I don't know if you're not a controlling person though, but go on, I'm listening.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't experience me. So
Sure,
if you,
right.
I'm always open to critique, right? And so that's one of the reasons I'm in therapy. But what you said was so key that sometimes controlling is out of anxiety, right? And so, with my wife and I, when she was going back and forth, we talked about this. This was something new for me. And it's easier to, I read body language. I can feel energy. But if you're long distance, and I'm not having that access, then it's a little bit more anxious for me, especially if there's already pre-existing emotional trauma. Right. So I dealt with deep-rooted abandonment issues. And so if I love you because when I came up, what I loved left, then I had a major issue with anything leaving me. And so in order to control so that I didn't experience that trauma that was unhealed, I didn't want you to leave. Does that make sense?
So I want to control where you went.
I wanted to keep you in this box because as long as you were in this box, then I knew that you weren't going to leave me because the 6-year-old still was afraid for her to leave.
That's good.
That's super
man.
Right?
insightful.
That's good.
And so I was unconsciously controlling, and it wasn't until I listened. So I'm glad you asked that question because control freaks don't know how they're making other people feel.
Right.
And so when she was saying that, I was screening that through the conversations I've heard in the past, and I'm like, wow, you know, because it wasn't intentional.
Right.
It was just that I was projecting an unresolved trauma, which would made me want to control.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've
That's
seen
so
that
good.
too.
You have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I've dated a person that kind of did that controlling thing. Like if I was going to the store and I went to Albertsons and I decided I wanted to go to Walmart. They wanted me to call and say, hey, you're going to Walmart. I'm going to Walmart now. I just left Albertsons. So they wanted that.
Is that control freak or crazy?
Yeah, that's a little.
That's
little
crazy.
It's control freak because when I actually paid attention to stories that he had told in his past, understanding he was a cheater and he cheated on his wife. And so understanding that he felt like if I was going other places, that I was doing the things that he used to do in his past.
Gotcha.
So again, he had, and help me with this, Toya, but that sounds like not just insecurity or a guilt type projection. Controlling would have been, you need to go to this store and buy this product, and I need to control where you go. Right. What he's saying is that I don't trust that you went where you said you're going to where you're going to go, so I don't trust what you were doing because you weren't where you're supposed to be.
No, it wasn't that. I mean, because he knew I was going to the store. It wasn't that he didn't trust me. It was that he didn't trust where he was in his past and expecting that I would do.
He didn't trust
you. He didn't trust you. Yeah,
he was projecting all of his previous behaviors on you.
Right. But what she's saying is when someone, and you know better than anybody on this panel, when someone is afraid that I'm going to get what I've dished out,
right?
Even if you're not doing anything for me not to trust you, I can't trust you because I love you and I'm afraid that you may hurt me the way I hurt somebody else.
Facts.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm going to control. I need to know where you at because I know when I went to Albertsons and then made that stop to Walmart, I was going to see Lil Mama.
Else. Right.
And so I don't want you to do that to me, so I'm going to try to control that. Is that fair?
But that's still him not trusting
yes,
her.
It still comes back to him not trusting her, though.
Gotcha.
So,
but you're right. You're
yes,
right. Like, it was a projection, but it's still him not trusting
and you're going to
her.
always find yourself trying to prove that he can trust you because you're always going to get a pop quiz.
Yeah.
Like, there's always going to be pop quizzes and things that he's going to see just to see how you respond. He's going to check your location to see if you were where you were. It's just, it's kind of never ending. Yeah. So in a relationship, as Corey was saying, that to think about, I think because some control freaks, it may come from a good place, right? Because you want to be done the right way. Right. You want your daughter to be raised the right way. Right. But they don't really realize you're hurting me more than you're helping me. Mm-hmm. And so, and I think so for control freaks in relationships, let that person be themselves, mistakes and all, because you're not perfect either.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the first box to check with a control freak is that, it's a possibility that my way isn't the best way. And even if it's a different way, if the deal is accomplished, that's okay. Now, my thing is this. I've been accused of not being very patient. That's been an accusation. It's a lie from the pit of hell.
It's very true.
That I'm not patient.
Not at all.
I am patient.
No, you're not.
I'm patient.
Confession is good for the soul.
Let me show you what I am not. It's not that I'm not patient with the outcome. I am impatient with no process being in place. Okay. As long as I see I get irritated where you don't even have a plan to do what you're supposed to do. If you tell me that here's my process of accomplishing this timeline is here, I'm okay with that. But when I ask you about a certain thing and you don't even know how you're going to get it done, there's no process. I'm impatient with that.
That's fair.
That's fair, but is it
Sure.
like the first time you asked them and so they didn't have a process to copy, or was they supposed to make the process up in their head? How was they supposed to find
It depends on the
process?
expertise of where you're supposed to be
Okay.
and what I'm asking you to do.
Okay.
So if you're my CPA and you know dates and timelines and
Got
stuff
it.
like that,
Okay,
there's
that
no
makes more
excuse
sense
for
to
why
me.
you're late on this
Got
and I
it.
ask you about it. Well, let me go research that. Well, you should did
Well,
that
you
2
just
weeks ago.
CPA, yeah. Okay,
Right.
got it.
Now, let's just say in a relationship, right? Man, I can give you a lot of examples of that about how, well, let me just say this way. One thing that I had to be cool with is honestly being okay with realizing that I'm not in control of nothing.
Literally.
The biggest myth is when we actually think we control something, when ultimately we do not. We can have prepared all this stuff for y'all, microphones and everything, but we could control whether or not y'all actually showed up or not.
Right.
And so ultimately, the minute when I the freedom, and it happened too long ago, but my freedom moment was when I realized, I don't control Jack. I don't control anything, but he controls everything.
And that's
And because I trust that he controls everything, it gave me peace of not having to control. The song, I'll put this to you guys in a second, but the song that solidified my relationship with Jesus Christ was learned. I was in the first grade Sunday school class, and we learned this song, He's Got the Whole World in His Hand. He's got the little bitty children in his hand. He got the sister and brother. That song messed me up because I said, wait a minute now. He's pretty big. And if he's got the whole world in his hand, that means he has me in his hand, and so he got me covered too.
Right.
So I think the freedom is for control freaks is you are on an emotional, mental plantation thinking that you control anything. And I don't care how much you put into a relationship, you could have done everything right, and it still fails because you can't control it. Your businesses, you could control your 2 trucks going down and $80,000. You can't control that. So certain things, it's just outside of our control. And the moment we live our lives, understand that even with our children, as much as we love them, we can't control them. We gotta give them the tools they need. When they leave, okay, God, now it's not on you. Anything you want to say on that, sir?
Yeah, it took me 45 years to get to this place where I realized that love is not controlling.
Oh my goodness, boy, you preaching now.
And if we could ever
My
liberate
goodness.
our minds to understand that even
Love is not controlling.
it's not. And a controlling love is a conditional love, right? And if we can ever get to the place where we stop putting conditions on our love, then we stop controlling.
Is that really love, though?
I think it absolutely. There is, if you look, now
Go ahead.
if you look at the way God loves us,
Come on.
is it a controlled type of love or does God love us freely?
God loves us freely, and I think he exercises. I tell people all the time about God that God he's a what's it called, free choice? What is the
Free will.
free will? What's the thing that people ask about abortion, pro-life or
Pro-choice.
Pro-choice. God's a pro-choice God,
Absolutely.
and so God
He gives you the liberty.
He gives you the liberty to make mistakes
a choice
and make mistakes
and make mistakes.
and loves you either way.
But the way we love is we love in a box.
Yep.
Every person watching this, I love you as long as you do this. I love you as long as you don't do this. Watch this. I love you if you do this, but I love you as long as you don't. So my love is conditional.
Right.
And conditions are controlling.
Conditions are they?
There's
No,
nuance.
They're
What-
forever. Yeah, they're nuances,
There's
but that's
nuance
why I
there.
paused because I wanted that to
Yeah.
right. It's a controlling. It's a condition that I say this is the condition for me to love you because this is what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
Sure.
The only thing I would say, Toy, I need you to referee this part. I can still love you,
There you go.
but not put up with you.
there you go.
But we're
Love
not,
doesn't mean access.
But see,
Bingo.
But see, what we're doing is now we're moving the goalposts. I'm not talking about access. I'm talking about love in its very essence.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I can love you. Yeah.
And-
I can love you without trying to control you.
Absolutely.
Sure, but I don't have to love you and be in relationship with
Absolutely
you.
not.
I don't have to be in contact with you. I don't have to handle you or be involved with you, and I can still absolutely love you.
Absolutely, I agree with
Right.
that.
And I think some of the freedom comes in with kind of what you're saying though is, hey, I love you, and I don't even know how much I love you. I have no idea how much I love you because I'm going to give you the freedom to hurt me if you choose to. And I think, and that's another thing about love, man. I think that you really can't love a person who don't have access of breaking your heart.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Unless
That's
you
true, that's
loose
true.
the reins, give them access to utterly obliterate your heart, you can't love them right. I
True.
can't love you like this, protect
Absolutely.
myself. So unless you are healthy enough to be hurt, you cannot properly love.
Right.
And I can't control even how you. Here's the question: can I control how people love me though? Can I control how you love me?
No, but you get to decide if you like how I love you or not.
That's a
Right.
great
That's,
answer.
that's the perfect answer.
Okay. I get to decide. Say it one more time.
You get to decide if you like how I love you, if you want to tolerate how I love you.
Man, okay. So I got
That's
a little pet peeve of mine. People that know me know if I text you or call you, email, respond to my stuff. I mean, it's just a pet. I just can't. Is that control? Or is that
Absolutely.
how is that control?
Because what you're saying is, I
think it's like courtesy.
No, what you're saying indirectly is that my communication with you is contingent upon your response. I will communicate with you, but I need you to respond to me.
That's my standard.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you this. Is there a
Yes.
time frame? Are
Come
you
on.
saying if I text you, you got to text right back, or do I get grace because maybe I was in a session?
Oh yeah. You get grace on that.
fine.
Yeah, I'm just here. It is, man. I'm one of the busiest people I know.
Yes, you are.
I see every text. It don't take nothing for me to say, "Bet, call you back in a second." Or woot, woot. I think people, man, want to be busy.
They do.
And want to portray that I'm so busy that I can't. Dude, stop! You're not that freaking busy.
Or here's the question that's going to be triggering for some.
Uh-oh.
Can you accept the fact that I seen your text, but your text is not priority? And I got something else going on. So is it?
That's a great question. That's
Is
a
it
great
that
question.
I
That
expect
is.
for you
Great
to be? I expect for my text to go to the top of the food chain because it's me.
Right.
You know what? That's a very fair question, and I think it depends on where I think I am with you.
Gotcha.
Now, if I think that I'm in a prioritized place, like with you, right?
Yeah.
Like you, my friend.
Yeah.
I text you, Negro, text me right back. I got a problem. But in business, especially business, I just think it's just professional courtesy to at least respond.
Yes.
To say, I've seen this email or I've seen this text. I don't have a lot of, and then now I get to determine, do I want to do business with you still because of how you do business?
Right. Absolutely.
That's right.
Wrap it up. Okay. Thank you. So she told me to wrap it up, and since I'm not in control,
See,
I am not in control of how long we go.
this conversation is just flowing.
This
and
is
it's
just
going,
flowing. So
but
she's
we ain't
in control. Yeah. So she's in control, and so we got to wrap this up.
We do.
And so, any lasting words for people who are, watch this, either they are a control freak, or do you want to speak on the other side of it? If they're being controlled by a control freak, what might we tell those individuals? Speak to either one. Either you're being controlled or you're the one controlling. Anyone jump in with that?
If you are being controlled, then I think you have to set boundaries around what you're willing to conform to and what you're not willing to conform to. So I will give here, I can compromise there, but these are my standards. So I would tell the person that's being controlled to set some boundaries and then probably go get some help, because how did we get here?
Go get help from where?
A licensed professional.
And how they find a good one?
They can follow me on Instagram at LaToya the Therapist, and I got them.
No problem. Anyone you want to speak for, the one being controlled or the one controlling?
I would say you be aware, because I know in my circumstance, I know you said it was trust, but for me it was control, and you just have to be aware and understand how you're going to respond to that, because that was not something that I gave into. It wasn't something that I can continue to allow. It was something that I ended. And so
You just broke off the relationship because,
I did. But I think that's something you just have to be aware of.
I would think that a control freak doesn't handle being broken up
Yeah.
with very easily.
No, they don't. They don't.
Is he still kind of buzzing around?
No, not time to time, just from time to time.
To kind of
I'll-
checks in,
Are
see,
you
hey,
clear with your boundaries?
Yeah, I am definitely very clear with my boundaries all of the time. But control
Do you
freaks
communicate with them at all whenever it reaches out?
No.
Is would you say that's a wise thing not to communicate with a control freak?
Absolutely. If you're done with that situation, and yes, do not communicate.
Can I ask her how come she doesn't just block him?
I love that question. I ask people that question all the time.
I have this fear that when people are like that, when I think they're control freaks or something, they're crazy, and so I want to be able to see that the behavior changes. So if I see texts, either, responses coming more frequent, then that tells me your behavior's changing. And so that just gives me comfort.
Well, since we have an LPC here, can you share with her why that may not be the best
not okay
idea?
Because you're leaving the door open.
Yes.
And so even if this person is crazy, even if we think this person may harm you, may not harm you, whatever, you're leaving the door open. And so every time you respond, you're giving them like a breadcrumb of attention. But if you have an iPhone, they see that you read it.
Oh, I don't have an iPhone.
Oh, okay, good.
Well,
I
watch
still think
this.
you should.
But still, though, you have to
still
deal.
there.
You have to deal with the mental, emotional of seeing them having sex.
There you
You're
go.
not responsible for monitoring their healing. That's not on you.
Well, it's not about their healing. It's about my protection.
So you feel like if you don't respond, then they may
I feel like if I don't see them, if I see them responding, if they're not messaging me, I'm good. When I see the messages, or if they were to increase, that's when.
So you're kind of in control of.
That's like a false sense of control. Though.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Because messages don't really speak to mindset all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
But we could talk offline. It's all
Yeah,
good.
and I also want to make sure that you're like a certain deep down part of you isn't curious, want to know about their well-being.
Not at all.
Okay, so if you never heard from them again, you'd be fine.
Absolutely.
You can block them right now
Yep.
and be good.
Yep.
Why not?
I can do it.
Where's your phone?
Oh my God.
Throw.
He caught it real good.
And while she's freeing herself from that that tie that's unhealthy for her mind, and she's opened up even more capacity of her heart and mind, because she don't have to worry about this anymore.
Right.
Sir, how about you?
Yeah, I was just fascinated by the exchange here, and watching her tap into her therapy
Therapist.
role and watching you tap into your pastor role all at the same time was a fascinating dynamic.
Yeah.
But to the control freak,
Talk to him, sir.
Yeah, I think that, number one, I believe that it comes out of fear and anxiety. But I, just like the person that's being controlled need help, I think the person that's controlling needs to go seek help as well. Where's that coming from? Oftentimes we got to go back to, from a theological perspective, we talk about the law of first mention, right? Where did it first happen? Where did you first feel like, because oftentimes you take control in a moment you first felt like you lost control. So you got to go talk to a therapist,
Right.
and figure out where that's coming from, because your control is squeezing the life out of people that you claim to love. And she kind of articulated that so well, that you're controlling, but sometimes you can be squeezing the life out of something.
Right.
And I don't think that's your true desire.
Right.
So go get some help.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And that's what mom said too, that she once she saw the word control, how it was impacting her daughter, that's what made her kind of back up. I think it's good. Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this session. I'm not in control, so if I was, we'd extend this. But since I'm not in control, and I'm totally okay with that. Okay, I really am in control. All right. Hey guys, this was a great session.
Cash App's in the bio.
So, Cash App. So guys, log on to next week. We have another great episode. God bless you and keep it going. Peace.
Gang, gang.
Gang, gang.
That was good, wasn't it? Now that you know who my man is, go follow Doc on IG at Doc_Goines. I'll see y'all next Tuesday back on the block.